Hello, everyone. Hello again. It's been a while since my last posting, and that's sort of been IRL getting in the way, but that's not really important. What is important is that right now I'm about to give you a redo, or my first second attempt at a story that I had already written and read to you, but based on my assumptions and a couple of reviews that I'd gotten before, my hypothesis was correct in that um, it wasn't exactly the clearest story that I'd ever done, and it certainly didn't make much sense to the people who had read it at the time. So here's my second attempt at Dungeon Crawl. Dungeon Crawl. It's darker than the winter solstice during the witching hour, rain beating mercilessly into the walls of the domicile. Sitting comfortably in the hardwood chair, Jane palms the pint in his hand as the lull of the water eases his nerves. Time passes as the faint light that brightens the ambient darkness shows the circle of his companions, the 3 men and 2 women about him, likewise occupying their time in unique ways. V reached into her purse and started counting her income from the last task she'd recently completed. Simon was focusing his attention on his trinket, a family heirloom he ran through his fingers. The siblings, Cassius and Cassandra, continued playing red hands with each other. By Jane's reckoning, Cassie was beating Cass by 4 points, judging by the most recent curse uttered by the large man. The last one, called Sphinx, as usual is minding his business. He was called that due to his inscrutable nature, but primarily because he is a mute. At least so it would seem, given he has never uttered a word or sound to any of them. They were all specialists, in their own profession of choice. The siblings by trade were traveling herbalists. The male counterpart a cultivator and botanical genius. The sister was a healer, using the vast knowledge at her disposal from Cassius to treat patients using applied learning. Simon was a lifelong scholar, instilled by his departed mother, employing his talents as a freelance tutor and scribe. V was the daughter of a merchant clan. Her proficiency in math and love of travel and expenditure gave her a reputation as a talented and fun bookkeeper. Jane himself was a simple mercenary, a retired elite soldier who found life was simpler when the mission was for coin than for any one cause. Sphinx, despite his numerous skills, lives on the generosity or fortune of others and the universe. A monk for as long as the group has known him, he cares for little, outside filling his belly and training himself of body and mind. In the middle of nowhere and seemingly alone at the watering hole, the deluge kept them inside, with nothing to do. Well, nothing but the task occupying their incessant boredom, that is. Jane tended to occupy himself by watching others, in this case his team, if they can so be called it. He finds them much more fascinating when they think no one is observing them. Their train of thought can be almost invisible on their countenance. With no one around to watch, the average person can be either fascinating or hilarious. Tonight, however, he stared at his dark brown draught and emptied himself of it all. "Yow!" crowed Cassius. It would echo if not for the pangs of the droplets outside. "You're cheating." "Deception is part of the game," his sister chimed back dryly, a small grin creasing into her face. "Well, you're finding a way to deceive me that I can't figure," he answered. "I've lived with you as long as you've lived with me," she said, swinging her left hand across to slap the opposite side. She didn't take her eyes off her adversary. "If you haven't learned how to beat me," she feinted her left shoulder to the desired result of his flinch, only to turn her right palm over for a quick tap of his hand. "Damn!" he jerked back. "Then that's on you." She turned both hands once more to slap both at once. "Enough, enough," he said with an exasperated sigh. She raised her wooden tankard in salute, which only was met with the losing sibling tapping with his own. Emptying his as quickly as he could, he placed it back on the dark wooden table. "At least I won that," he chuckled. "Always," she smiled, running her smaller hand into his long waves that covered his forehead. Who wants next, then? Everyone stayed silent. Jane never bothered. The miserly V across her couldn't see the point in the game without real stakes, as she called it. Simon shook his head, finding games boring. Sphinx, as usual, turned to face her and offered out his hands where everyone refused. No, not today, you. I didn't forget what you did to me last time. She rubbed her hand back in remembrance. Shrugging, he returned to his drink. Don't like a battle you might get hurt in? Cass shot to her. We can go again, she threatened him. He placed his open palms up in surrender. Jane chuckled until the crackle that warned of a thunderbolt sounded, and then the clap immediately split the darkness in twain. The luminous white shone against the midnight sky. Blast! Shuddered Simon with dread. He took a quick glance back out the window to the gale taking form outside, then back down to gulp a healthy swig of his stout. How is it that a wandering scholar finds himself scared of lightning? Jane inquired with wonder. It's because I know about it that I am so wary, he drones on. It's known that thunderbolts strike at random for any reason, at any time of the day. In fact, they're believed to be so hot. Thank you, Professor. V lightly concluded with a wink and a spin of her coins on the tabletop. Waving off her response, Simon went back to his musings. Before they knew it, a rumble in their feet alerted Jane. They turned to face each other, and none could divine a likely solution for what was befalling them. Sphinx stood abruptly and turned to walk to the door with intention, moving so quickly the chair he sat on sprawled loudly across the floor. The others snapped their attention to their compatriot on the move as he palmed the door open and pushed it with authority. He stared through the frame in silent incredulity, the rest of the party joining in the view. Sweet, merciful Magra, Simon said under his breath as he arrived to gaze into the dark sight before them all. A fissure, only a mild schism, peeked from the corner of the tavern. That very same tear in the ground to their right led to the grassland, almost navy blue in the dark rippling wind, which only grew wider and more tendrilled. The growing rupture beneath them reached an epicenter yards shy of the horizon, where a gigantic circular burn could easily be seen. Did the bolt cause it? Was it a coincidence? What in blazes? Cass interjected. The tremors subsided for a moment. Then the tumult beneath the earth became a roiling rumble. That rumble churned further into the crack as the dark red light began to glow in pulses from the surfaces and rippled tears throughout the field. Whatever was within, it was loud and coming forth. What do we do? Cassie shouted to Simon. You're the scholar. Use that learning. The rain outside pounded into the windows of the apartment the players were gathered in. The assembled party skimmed their character sheets and focused back to the host for the evening, who sat at the head of the table reviewing his rulebook. So, what do you do? The dungeon master smiled slyly to the chair to the right of his screen cover. Initiative is yours, Sphinx. You're the monk. Run in and check on what's coming back. Simon, who played the scholar, advised Ptolemy. Then I can use my lore skill to try to determine what it is. A monk who cannot talk running over to warn us about what it is? That's a silly idea. James, or Cassius, mocked. He's not a mute. He took a vow of silence, right? His sister Jamie, as Cassandra in the game, corrected James. Was that how your origin goes on your sheet? I forget. Ptolemy nodded with a grin, continuing with the gag of playing his role as much as possible. Vanessa? Ideas? Joan, who opted to play the male soldier Jane, turned to her girlfriend. Better known as V, Vanessa always kept her own counsel in these moments. I don't see any profit in going over there. She chuckles to her lover with a shrug. I say we run somewhere safe and see how that unfolds. Everyone around her groaned and jeered with disdain. Always playing it safe, baby. The short-haired woman, as the mercenary, answered. Monk, you're looking into it. I'm coming with you. Since I can't follow you at first, you'll take the lead and wave me over if you don't feel anything off. Can we do that, DM? She turned to the observant face behind the cardboard screen. He shrugged openly to the party, trying to decide. I don't see why that is a problem, assuming you pass the perception check. She pointed at Ptolemy. And you can see him do it in the dark enough to follow the signal. Fair? All nodded. Okay, you two, roll your d20s, and let's see what fate decides.